How was your day? Maybe someone decided who you were before you'd had a chance to show them. Maybe a small thing went unasked, and you've been carrying it since. There's a boy in an old story who grew up in a forest. He didn't know he was a knight. He didn't know much at all. His name was Percival. If today felt a little like that, he'd understand. Tonight, you don't have to know the answer. You don't have to ask the right question yet. Just lie back, soften your breathing, and let the old wood take us in. We're going to begin near the end. Picture this: a young knight kneels in a candlelit hall. A silver lance is carried past him, a single bead of red at its point, then a gold cup gentle as breath. He says nothing. He does not ask. By morning, the castle is gone. The candles, the cup, the silent men in white, all of it. Only the cold dew on his cloak and the wide gray field tell him it was real. And his question, still unasked, has begun to weigh. Most heroes are tested by what they do. Percival is tested by what he doesn't say. One sentence, one small kindness, and he holds it back. A whole kingdom waits on a question that never leaves his mouth. Maybe you know that kind of silence. Not dramatic silence, the quiet kind. The one where you knew the right thing to ask, and a politeness stopped you, and the moment closed. The old story knew that already. It built a whole kingdom around it. A wounded king, a waiting land, a cup of light, all held up by one boy learning that purity is not knowing nothing. Purity is daring to ask. This is what we do here. Every week, one old story, one night. Something that happened a very long time ago, and still has something to say about now.
Get comfortable now. Adjust your pillow. Find your warmth. If you drift off before the question is asked, that's all right. The old story will keep watching for you.
This is only the beginning of his story. The part most people never reach. The asking, the healing, the long forgiveness that is still ahead, but not tonight. Tonight, just this. If tonight felt like something, subscribe. We'll be here next week with another old story. Another night like this one. Now back to ours. Long before any of that, before the castles, before the question, there was a clearing in a forest. A small cabin. A mother who had decided her son would never see a sword. Her name was Herzeloide. She had already lost a husband to the iron of knighthood, a brother to the road, the courts, the wars. She made one quiet vow, not her son, not him. So she raised him in the wood. She taught him to throw a small javelin at rabbits, to find watercress, to name the calls of birds. She did not teach him the word knight. She didn't even teach him the word king. He grew tall and red-haired and quick. He thought the whole world was the trees. He thought everyone's mother stood in a doorway and watched for them at dusk. He thought safety was the shape of things. And maybe you remember a place like that. Maybe a small bedroom, a kitchen, a backyard, an old grandmother's house. The kind of place a child believes is the whole shape of the world. The old story begins exactly there. Then one morning a sound, not a bird, not the wind, hooves and metal and voices that did not belong to his mother, something the wood had never carried before. He went toward it. Through the trees came 5 knights in mail. Sunlight caught their helms, caught the gold at their shields, caught their cloaks turning behind them like banners. The boy in the bracken had never seen anything so bright.
He stood up. He did not hide. He stepped right out into the path. He asked the only question a boy raised on birds could ask. What are you? He thought they were angels. He thought they had come from the sky.
The lead knight laughed, kindly, not cruelly. He explained the word knight. He explained the word sword. He explained the words horse and lord and king. Each word landed in the boy like a small lit candle.
And where does one find a king? The boy asked. In Camelot, said the knight, in the hall of Arthur. The boy turned the word over in his mouth, Camelot. He'd never heard it before. He decided he would walk there.
That night at the cabin, he could not stop talking about iron, about a horse's height, about a sword. His mother listened and did not interrupt. She set down the bread. She set down the knife. She set down everything. She had spent his whole life trying to keep this hour from arriving. She had moved them deep into the wood. She had told him nothing. And still the world had walked down the path with its bright shields and called him. Maybe you know that hour too. The one where the thing you raised, the thing you protected, looks up at you with shining eyes and says, I have to go, and there's nothing you can say back that will stop it." She did not try. By morning she had sewn him a tunic of homespun. Not the deep red of knights, not the green of lords, just the color of the wool the sheep had given. She would not pretend he was anything yet. She gave him 3 rules. Greet every woman gently, pray at every chapel you pass, and do not ask too many questions. He took them in solemnly, the way a child takes in the names of stars. They would matter later. At the door she stopped him. She set her small hand against his chest. She wanted to memorize the way his heart felt under her palm. She wanted to remember it in case the wood swallowed him. It would. He stepped past her into the wood. He did not look back, not because he did not love her, because at 15 you cannot yet bear to look back. He understood that years too late. The boys who matter all do. The old story will tell you this plainly. She died of his leaving. Not at once, not in any way that he could see from his road. But she died. He would not learn it for a long time. He would carry the not knowing first. He walked east. He walked along streams. He named the birds out loud the way she had taught him, because nothing else in his head sounded like her voice. By the 3rd evening the wood thinned and he saw a real road. On the road he met a fine lady alone in a pavilion. He greeted her gently because his mother had said to. He drank from her cup and ate from her bread because he was hungry and did not yet know any other way. He took a ring from her finger because his mother had said something once about rings and gentleness, and he had misunderstood. He left her in tears she could not yet explain. He had begun his long apprenticeship in error. It would cost her later. Her own knight would return, would not believe her, would punish her for kindness she had only half given. The boy did not see it. The road carried him onward. The old stories let consequence trail behind the innocent. That is one of the hard truths of his story, and we won't make it pretty. He does harm before he knows what harm is. The kingdom of becoming is paved with kindnesses that landed wrong. Maybe you remember some of yours. On the road again he met another lady. She was the loathly damsel, gentle eyes set in a worn, unloved face. She did not yet curse him. That came later. For now she only nodded and went past and remembered him. He slept that night under a low alder by a small stream. He prayed because his mother had told him to. He did not know what the prayer meant. He said it anyway. The old stories say that's enough at the beginning. Maybe you've done that. Whispered something into a dark ceiling that you weren't sure anyone could hear. Not because you believed, because you needed somewhere to put the words. The story understands that too. By the 4th day, the wide plain of Logres opened before him, and he saw the stone walls of Camelot. They were taller than the oaks of his wood. They had banners at the top that did not wait on the wind to move them. Outside the gates was a wide meadow, and in that meadow stood another knight. But this one was wrong, somehow, all in red. His armor red, his shield red, his horse a black destrier with red trappings. He looked carved out of stopped blood. The Red Knight had ridden into Arthur's hall that morning. He had insulted the queen. He had carried out her gold cup. Now he sat in the meadow with that cup at his saddle, waiting for any man brave enough to come fetch it back. No one had come yet. Even the bravest of Arthur's knights had paused. Inside, the king sat very still at the round table, eyes fixed on his hands. A great court had been humbled by a single man in red. And then a boy walked up the road. He passed the Red Knight without bowing. He thought the man was carved of stone. He walked through the gate. He walked through the courtyard. He walked into the great hall. No one stopped him. They were too startled to stop him.
He walked straight to King Arthur. He did not kneel. He had never seen a king. He had been told to greet people gently. He said, "Sir, I think I'm supposed to be a knight. The men in the road said you make them here."
The hall laughed. Not all of them kindly. A few looked at him the way you look at a bird that has flown in through a window. Arthur did not laugh. He saw something else. He saw the way the boy carried himself unprotected. A kitchen girl who had not spoken in 6 years looked at the boy across the hall and laughed. A small, clear laugh. Everyone turned. The Seneschal Sir Kay struck her for it. The hall went very still. Percival saw that too. It is the boy's first lesson in court. Cruelty wears clothes here. It is allowed to. It signs a paper. Percival did not understand the politics. He understood the slap. He filed it where his mother had taught him to keep wrongs.
He turned back to Arthur and said, "I will go and get your cup from the red one in the field, and then perhaps you will let me stay." It was not bravery exactly, it was not knowing. The hall went still in a different way.
Arthur, kind as he was, tried to dissuade him. The boy did not understand the warnings. He bowed because his mother had said to bow, and walked out of the hall. The court drifted after him. They could not look away. Stay with this image. A barefooted boy in undyed wool, ash spear at his shoulder, walking across the meadow toward a tall red knight on a black horse. The whole court watching from the gates. No armor, no sword, only an open face. The red knight laughed inside his helm. He thought it was a joke from the king. He thought a peasant boy had been sent to die for sport. He lowered his lance. He spurred his black destrier. He came. Percival did not move. He did not even raise the ash spear. He waited until the last instant. And then with the same arm he had thrown javelins at rabbits, he threw once. The spear went up under the helm. The red knight fell. The black destrier ran on a few paces and stopped. The meadow was very quiet. The boy walked up to the body. He did not know what to do next. He had never undressed a knight before. He tried to pull the armor off. He did not know about buckles. He did not know about straps. He pulled on a sleeve until a thread snapped. He almost gave up. He almost just stood there forever in the meadow, defeated by laces. An older knight rode out to him from the gate, a scarred, kind man named Ivone. He showed Percival the way a hauberk comes off. He showed him the way a sword belt's on. He did not laugh. He had been a boy once. Percival put the red armor on. He had to be helped into all of it. He kept the boots loose because they did not fit his bare feet. He took the gold cup from the saddle and walked it back to the gate. But here's the thing. He did not return inside. He did not stay. He told Arthur, through the older knight, that he was going to learn. He would come back when he had been taught. Then he turned the black destrier and rode. He had no idea where he was riding. The destrier did. It knew the road home. It carried him through a long evening and a short night and into the morning. By the time he saw the stone keep, he was half asleep in the saddle. The lord of that keep was Gournement of Gohort. He had taught knights for 40 years. He had buried 2 sons. He had been waiting, in a way he could not have named, for one more pupil. The gate opened for the red-cloaked boy. Let me pause the road for a moment. This story sits on something older than the romance. Behind Percival is a Welsh boy named Peredur, and behind him a memory the old British poets had kept alive, a wounded king, a vessel of plenty, a question to be asked. The Welsh told it first, a boy raised in a forest, a castle that appears at evening, a spear that drips blood, a platter that carries a head. The Christian skin came later. The bones of the story are older than any chapel. Then France took him. Chrétien de Troyes set him into rhyme around 1180. The Grail became a holy cup, not a platter. The boy got a new name with a softer sound. Percival. He has worn that name almost 1,000 years. Then Germany took him. Wolfram von Eschenbach put a soul on him. Parzival. The Grail became a stone fallen from heaven. The story became the long correction of a single failure. Tonight is closer to that telling than any other. All 3 keep the same heart. A pure boy who fails by being too polite. A wound that does not close. A question that must be asked. The shape of it has not aged. It is quite possibly about you. Now back to the gate at Gohort. Gournement took him in without making a question of it. He fed him. He took the red armor off him. He gave him plain clothes and a small room above the smithy. He did not ask his name for 2 days. The road needed to settle in him first. On the 3rd day he took him into the inner courtyard. He put a wooden practice sword in his hand. He showed him how the wrist works, how the foot moves with the wrist, how the eyes lead the foot. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Within a week he could disarm Gournement's best squire. Within 2 he could ride at the quintain and strike it 3 out of 3. The body of him was made for this. The forest had given him eye, arm, and breath. He had only lacked the form. Gournement watched him with something like worry. The boy was almost too quick, almost too gentle. There was a thing missing, not skill, not heart. Caution. The boy had never learned to be afraid. The old teacher knew that mattered.
One evening in the great hall, Gournement said, "There are things to know that are not in the sword. Listen now." He named 4. Honor the church. Help the helpless. Show mercy when you can. And do not ask too many questions. Do not ask too many questions.
He said it twice because he had seen too many young knights drown in their own curiosity. He meant, do not chatter, do not interrupt, do not press your hosts. Percival took it in the way he took everything, fully, without weighing. That single piece of advice would, in time, undo a kingdom. Gournemant did not know it. Percival did not know it. The story knew it. Sometimes the most loving rule a teacher gives becomes the door through which the wound walks in. Maybe you have a teacher like that in your own life. Someone whose love was true and whose advice was almost right. Someone whose words you carry years later and who could not have foreseen the one room where the words would fail. Most of us do. At the end of his stay, Gournemant knighted him. He did it quietly. No banners, no crowd. Just the smith and the chaplain and the older knight in the chapel above the smithy. He set the sword on his shoulder. He called him by his name for the first time.
Percival, he said, go now, go gently into the world, help where you can, greet women kindly, pray often, and remember the rule about questions. The boy nodded. He believed every word. He went down to the courtyard. The black destrier was saddled.
He rode out alone. He did not know which direction was anywhere. He let the destrier choose. By midday the country had changed. The fields were thin, the trees were small, the villages were quiet in a way that did not feel like peace. It felt like hunger. He passed 2 villages without seeing a child. He passed 3 without seeing a dog. By evening he came over a low rise and saw on a small gray hill above a flat, empty plain, a castle of gray stone with thin, faded banners, Beaurepaire, beautiful refuge, misnamed now. He rode up to the gate. He knocked. No watchman shouted down at him. After a long pause, the gate opened by itself, pulled by a man so thin Percival did not at first realize he was an adult. The hunger had hollowed him. Inside the courtyard was quiet. No smell of bread, no smell of cooked meat, no sounds of training. Only one thin, small dog asleep against a wall and 3 pale men leaning against a doorframe, watching him without speaking. He had ridden into a place that was dying slowly. The lady of the castle came down to meet him. She was very young, maybe his own age, maybe a year older. Her gown was the color of pale spring leaves. Her braid hung past her waist. She did not curtsy. She did not have the strength. Her name was Blanchefleur, White Flower. Her castle was the last free thing in a country a cruel lord had been starving for a year. He wanted her. He wanted her people to give her to him. They had said no, and the price was bread. She offered him what she had, half a loaf, a cup of thin small ale. He took only a small piece. He had eaten that morning at Gournement's table. He could feel the lightness of the castle in his teeth. He did not yet know the word for it. Famine. She told him, simply, what was happening. Her lord at the gate, her people behind the walls. Tomorrow he would come. There was no army to send. There was no escape. She would not give herself to him. She would only go on saying no until there was nothing left.
Percival listened. He did not understand siege. He did not understand politics. He understood a woman is being made to choose between her body and her people. His mother's first rule rose in him. He said, very quietly, I will fight him for you.
She did not weep. She had spent her tears in the early months of the siege. She only nodded. She set her thin fingertips briefly against the back of his hand. It was the first time anyone outside his mother had touched him kindly. That night he slept in a small bare room above the gate. The straw was thin. The blanket was thinner. He did not mind. He kept his sword by the cot. He did not pray for himself. He prayed for her. The story remembers that. At first light he rode out alone. The cruel lord had a tall champion at the front of the camp. They met in the field between the gate and the tents. The fight was short. Percival was already better than Gournement had realized. The champion was down within 4 passes. He spared the man. He told him to ride to Camelot and surrender himself to Arthur. He did not yet know why he kept saying Arthur. Perhaps because he could think of no other name that meant kingdom. The defeated champion rode off in shame and obedience. The cruel lord came out himself the next day. He was older. He was angrier. He was sure of himself. Percival fought him for an hour. There were 3 moments when the lord almost killed him. There were 3 moments when the boy almost died. But by an hour past noon, the cruel lord knelt in the grass. Percival did not kill him. He told him to ride to Beaurepaire, to beg pardon of Blanchefleur, to free the road, to leave. The cruel lord did. Even cruel lords obey. In the old stories, when they meet purity in armor. That evening, the smell of bread came back to the castle. A wagon of grain rode in from a nearby town that had been afraid to send any until now. A second wagon came, a third. The thin gatekeeper laughed for the first time in a year. It startled him. Blanchefleur and Percival stood together on the wall at evening. They watched the long line of supply wagons coming up the road. She did not thank him. She knew the kind of person he was already. Thanks would have made it smaller. She only stood with him. She asked him, very gently, if he would stay. She did not press. She did not bargain. She simply asked. She wanted him to know that the door was open, even if he chose to ride through it the wrong way. He could not yet stay. He could not yet have explained why. His mother was still standing in a doorway in his head, watching for him. He had to go and find her again, or find out that he could not. He told Blanchefleur so. She nodded. She had a mother once too. He left the next morning. She did not come down to the gate. She stood on the high wall alone, watching the small red figure of him riding out. He turned once on the road and lifted one hand. She lifted one hand back. That was their parting. He rode east through a country slowly waking. He had been a forest boy. He had been a court stumbling boy. He had been Gournemant's pupil. He had been Beaurepaire's deliverer. None of those names yet were the real one. The road kept asking him for it. For 3 days he rode without seeing a single person. The country had emptied out around him, as if it knew he was approaching something. The sky stayed pale gray. The wind dropped. Even the destrier walked more softly than usual. On the 4th morning the road forked. One way climbed toward open hills. The other dropped toward a wide, slow river. He had no reason to choose. He let the destrier pick. The black horse turned its head toward the water without hesitation. They came to the riverbank in the long, pale hour before evening. The water moved slow. Tall reeds bent and rose. And there, on a small, flat boat moored at a worn stake, sat a man fishing alone, dressed too richly for the riverbank. He looked up at Percival without surprise. He looked at him the way a person looks at someone they have been waiting for, not impatiently, not relieved, just finally. The boy did not yet know the word for what was in that look. Recognition.
"Do you know," the man said, "where a traveler might find lodging tonight?" Percival looked at the empty country around them. He had seen no roof in 3 days. He said honestly that he did not. The man smiled and pointed up the river. "Follow the river," he said. "When the mist closes around you, do not turn back. There is a house there. Tell them I sent you. Tell them I will come at dark." He did not give a name. Percival did not ask. The old rule held.
He rode along the river. The light went thin. The reeds went silver. The mist came up exactly as the fisherman had said it would. It rose from the water as if it had been waiting for him. He rode into it. The destrier did not slow. When the mist thinned again, he was at the foot of a high stone wall. He had not heard it approach. He looked up and up, tall, narrow, pale towers against a deep blue sky pricked with the very first stars. A gate stood open. No watchman, no torch outside. He rode through. The courtyard inside was lit by torches in iron rings, torches that did not smoke. A boy in white came forward and took the destrier's reins without a word. Another boy came and lifted his cloak gently from his shoulders. They did not look up at him. They led him through a low door into a long stone hall. Hundreds of slender white candles glowed steady along the walls. A low fire of cedar wood burned in a wide hearth at the room's center. The air smelled like clean smoke and old prayer. At the far end of the hall, in a high-backed carved chair near the hearth, sat the fisherman from the river. He had come ahead somehow, or had been here all along. Percival did not understand, and did not ask. He bowed instead.
The king smiled. He could not stand. He gestured at the chair set beside his own. "Sit, my son. Eat with me. You will be tired." Percival sat. Servants set a low table between them, laid with a white cloth, simple bread, soft cheese, a deep dark wine. "I am sorry," said the king, "that I cannot rise to greet you. I have been wounded a long time. The wound does not close. Forgive me." Percival looked at him. He saw the white bandage at the thigh beneath the robe. He felt the words rise. He pressed them back.
Gornement's voice rose in him. Do not ask too many questions. He had taken it as a rule for politeness. He thought the kindest thing was silence. He thought a wounded man would not want to be asked about his wound, so he said nothing. Stay with this. He thought he was being kind. That is the heart of the failure. Many of the saddest mistakes look exactly like manners. Maybe you have made one of them. Maybe you remember the silence in the room afterwards. Maybe you remember the shape of it. Then a doorway at the far end of the hall opened. A pale boy in white came through carrying a slender silver lance held upright. From the tip of the lance, one single red bead, and then another, slid slowly down the shaft toward his fingers. Percival saw it. He sat very still. He felt the lift of a question. Why is it bleeding? Who do you bleed for? And Gornement's voice rose again. Do not ask. He did not. The boy with the lance walked past them and out the other door. Then 2 more boys entered, each carrying a tall golden candelabra with 10 lit candles. They walked the same path, past the chairs, past the hearth, through the far door. Their faces were quiet. Percival's heart was loud in his chest. He did not ask. Then she came in, a tall young woman in white silk, bordered with gold, pale gold hair to her waist, free, no veil. She walked very slowly, bearing in both hands at chest height a wide, shallow cup of pale gold. Soft light gathered in the bowl of it. Percival looked at the cup. He looked at her. He looked at the wounded king. 3 questions rose in him at once. What is it? Who is it for? Why does he suffer? Each in turn was pressed down. Each in turn was silenced by a rule he had taken too seriously.
She passed between them. She did not look at him. She did not need to. She walked through the far door. The procession was over. The king said only, very softly, "Eat now, my son. Drink. You will be tired tonight." And the meal began.
He ate well. He drank lightly. He answered the king's gentle questions about his road. He did not speak again of what he had seen. He did not ask. The king did not press. The hall stayed warm around them. The boy thought everything was as it should be. After the meal, he was led to a small high room. A clean bed, a clean basin, a folded white nightshirt. He slept hard. He dreamed of his mother. He dreamed of Blanchefleur. He did not dream of the cup. Sleep covered it. Sleep covered the question. In the deepest part of the night, he heard someone weeping, far away, somewhere in the walls of the castle. It was the kind of sound that does not wake a sleeper. It is the kind that goes into a dream and changes its weather. He did not wake. He turned in his sleep. When he woke, the room was full of cold, pale morning light. The candle had burned out. His sword was still on the chair. The folded shirt of last night now lay on the foot of the bed. No servant was there. The castle felt not empty exactly. Hushed. He dressed. He went out into the hall. The hundreds of candles were gone. Only the worn iron rings where they had stood remained. The carved chairs by the hearth were gone. The low table was gone. The hearth itself was cold. Even the smell of the cedar wood was already only a memory. He walked through the empty halls, calling out. No one. The kitchens, empty. The chapel, empty. The towers, empty. The black destrier stood in the courtyard, already saddled. His red cloak was folded on the saddlebag, as if he were being sent on his way. He mounted. The gate that had opened for him yesterday opened for him again. He rode out. The destrier carried him down the path he had ridden up. He looked back from the road. The mist had already begun to close around the towers. By midday, the towers were gone. The mist had taken them. He could not tell whether the castle had moved or whether he had. He could not even by then find the river the fisherman had taken him along. There was no river. There was only an empty plain. Maybe that's the part of the story that hurts most. Not that he failed, that he was not allowed to go back and try again. The night had closed behind him. He had been given one chance, and he had been so polite he hadn't used it. That's the moment many old stories pause and let you breathe. I want to do the same. If today asked one small question of you and you said nothing, you are not alone. The pure knight of legend did exactly that. The story did not throw him away. He rode for the rest of the day in a silence he could not name. By evening he came upon a small clearing under a low tree. Someone was sitting there, a young woman in a worn gray dress, holding the body of a knight across her lap.
She looked up at the red-cloaked rider. Recognition came slowly into her face, then sharpened. "You?" she said. "Cousin, Where have you come from? Where have you spent this night? Her voice was tired and steady. She did not weep for the man in her lap. He named the castle on the river. She knew it. She had heard of it. And what did you see there? She asked. He told her about the lance with the slow red bead, about the candelabras, about the cup of pale gold, about the king who could not stand. She asked him then, very quietly, "And what did you ask?" He looked at her. He realized for the first time, with a small cold movement in his chest, that he had asked nothing at all. He said honestly, "I did not ask."
She did not curse him. She did not strike him. She did not shame him. She did something worse. She told him gently exactly what one question would have done. The king's wound could have closed. The wasteland could have come back to wheat. A whole country could have eaten by spring. He could not yet weep. He did not yet have the practice. He set his hands flat on his knees. He looked at the dead night on her lap. He did not understand all of it, but he understood the weight of it. He felt it begin to settle into him.
"Who are you?" he asked her at last. She told him. She was his cousin on his mother's side. The dead knight in her lap was her husband. They had been riding to seek shelter when the cruel lord's men had taken them. She had nothing left, not even tears. And then she said something that almost broke him in a different way. "Your mother is dead too. She died the day you left. She watched until she could not, and then she lay down. He stayed very still. He stayed still for a long time."
He helped her bury her husband at the edge of the clearing. They did it slowly with a single short spade she had carried with her. They did not speak much. When it was done, he gave her his red cloak. She did not thank him. She did not need to. She told him to go on, to not stop, to keep searching for the river and the castle, that if he found them again, he must ask. He nodded. He mounted the destrier. He turned back to the road. The cousin disappeared into the deeper wood with the spade. For many days after that, he rode without sleeping well. He could not get the slow red bead on the lance out of his mind. He could not get the pale gold cup out of his mind. He could not get his mother's open hands in her lap out of his mind. He performed great deeds in those weeks. He rescued a maiden from 2 thieves on a forest road. He brought a stolen child back to a farm. He took down a robber knight on a stone bridge. None of it touched the heaviness in his chest. The deeds were not the cure. The knights he defeated, he told them all to ride to Arthur's court. He had said the king's name so often that the name had grown into his mouth. By midsummer there were a dozen defeated lords arriving at Camelot each week, all of them sent by a red-haired boy. Arthur began to look for him. He sent messengers along the roads. He set out himself once with a small retinue to find this knight who never came in person. They missed him by a day at a forest crossroads. They missed him by half a day at a small stone chapel. The road kept the boy. Late one autumn, he came to a wide snow-strange morning, 2 drops of fresh blood on the snow, beside them a thin black feather dropped from a hawk. He stopped the destrier. He stared at the small bright red against the white. He could not look away. The colors made him think of Blanchefleur, pale skin, red mouth, black braid in one telling, ash blonde in another. He sat the destrier and he forgot the road. He forgot time. He forgot the war. He even, for an hour, forgot the cup. He was just a young man remembering a girl. Knights of Arthur happened upon him there in the snow. 2 of them rode toward him to find out who he was. He was so deep in his thought he did not hear them. They thought he was challenging them. There was a small misunderstanding. He unhorsed them, gently, almost without looking. At last a wiser knight named Gawain came forward alone, without his lance, and asked the red-haired rider gently what held him. Percival blinked up at him. He told him about the drops. He told him about the girl. Gawain understood at once. He took him by the rein and led him quietly off. Let me pause again. The wounded king and the bleeding lance are very old images. The Welsh told them. The Christians retold them. They sit beneath the surface of every wound that has not closed in your life, every grief that the body cannot close on its own. Some scholars say the original lance was Christian, the one that pierced the side of a man at Golgotha. Some say it was Celtic, the spear of Lugh, of the Tuatha de Danann, that bled when it thirsted for war. The truth is, both. Stories carry both. The wounded king is older still. He is the body of the land itself. When he is hurt, the country dries up. When he is healed, the fields fill out. The old farmers knew that long before any church explained it. The land has always asked the king how he is. The cup is younger and older at once. In the Celtic tellings it is a cauldron of plenty. In the Christian tellings it is the cup of the Last Supper. In Wolfram it is a stone that fell from heaven. All of them point to the same thing, a vessel that gives back what was given. And the question is the oldest part. The old stories knew that the wound does not close until someone finally asks about it, until someone says what hurts. Who do you bleed for? May I see it? That is the cure. That has always been the cure. Now back to Camelot. Gawain brought him in. The hall went very quiet when Percival entered. He was the boy who had walked out in undyed wool a year and a half before. He was now a tall, lean knight with a small new line of trouble at the mouth. The king rose to meet him. There was a feast that night. Arthur made him sit at his right hand at the round table. They named the seat for him with bronze letters. Knights he had defeated and sent here rose one by one to thank him. The boy did not know how to answer. He bowed his head over his cup. He should have been happy that night. He could see he was honored. He could see that the queen smiled gently at him. He could see that Blanchefleur's name was being murmured down the table because the story had reached Camelot already. He sat at the right hand of the king, and he could not feel any of it. The doors at the far end of the hall opened. A figure walked in slowly. A small old woman on a slow brown mule. Her cloak was dark. Her face was plain. Her eyes were deep. The hall began to quiet around her. She did not need to lift her voice. She had come for him. She did not look at the king. She did not look at the queen. She did not look at Gawain or Kay. She stopped her mule in front of Percival's seat. She lifted her eyes to him. He recognized them. He had seen them once before on a forest road, the loathly damsel. She spoke to him alone. But the whole hall heard. She named the castle. She named the wounded king. She named the question he had not asked. She named the famine that had followed. She named the women who had been raped on roads because the kingdom had no king who could rise. She did not raise her voice. She did not strike him. She did not even sound angry. She only laid the truth down between them as if it were a small dead bird. Then she turned the mule. She rode out. She did not look back. The hall stayed silent for a very long minute.
He stood up. He bowed once to the king. He said only, "I cannot stay. I must look for that castle again. If I do not find it, I will never know the way back." Arthur did not stop him. The hall watched him walk the long way to the door.
That night he rode out under a low, cool moon. He did not take his cloak. He did not take a feast bag. He did not take a fresh horse. He took the black destrier and his sword and his mother's pewter ring and the line of trouble at his mouth. The road took him in again. For weeks he searched. He went back along every road he could remember. He went to every river he could find. He asked at every village for a slow river with reeds. There were too many. There were not enough. The castle did not appear. He grew thinner. He let his hair down. He let his beard come in red. He stopped wearing the red surcoat over his mail. He started carrying his helmet at his saddle. He looked less and less like a knight of the Round Table and more like a man on a long private errand. In a village above a small stream, he asked an old woman if she had ever heard of a castle that appeared at evening and was gone by dawn. She set her thin hand on his sleeve. She told him that her grandmother had spoken of it, that her grandmother's grandmother had spoken of it, that her grandmother's grandmother had spoken of it.
"Then the castle is a real thing?" he asked. She nodded once. "Then where is it?" She shook her head. "It is not where," she said. "It is when. It comes to those who can find it. It hides from those who cannot. You can ride past it and not see it. You can sleep in it and forget."
He rode out of the village, changed in a small, invisible way. He had stopped looking for a place. He had begun looking for a state of being. He did not yet know that, to find the castle again, the boy who had failed to ask would have to die first. Maybe you know that small, invisible change. You stopped trying to fix the outside of the problem. You started instead to notice what was happening inside you. That is the moment the story of becoming actually starts. He had begun his... He spent 2 months in deep forests. He spoke little. He helped where he could. He still threw the cruel knights down. He still sent them to Arthur. He still rescued anyone he found in trouble. He did all of it now without taking any joy from it. Even kindness had become a kind of work. One evening he came to a small abbey. He stopped because the bell was ringing. He went in and knelt at the back. He did not say a prayer. He had no words for one. He stayed for the whole service. He listened to the slow chanting. He felt something in his chest soften by half an inch. After the service, an old monk asked him gently to stay the night. He said yes. He slept in a small bare cell with whitewashed walls. He dreamed of his mother in the cabin doorway. In the dream, she put her small hand on his chest. She said only, "Go on." He woke before dawn. He left the abbey at dawn. He rode east, then north, then east again. The country was hill and wood and small river and small village. He could not find the slow gray river. He could not find the small flat boat. He could not find the fisherman. The land had folded the castle in. He found other adventures, smaller ones. He helped a child whose dog had fallen into a pit. He carried an old widow's bundle 2 miles. He sat by a sick man until the man slept. None of these were the great deeds of a round table romance. He preferred them. He slept by a low fire each night now. He kept his sword across his lap. He kept his mother's ring on his hand. He kept Blanchefleur's name in his mouth as a small private prayer. The destrier kept its head close to his shoulder while he slept. He was not alone exactly, he was alone enough. One winter morning he came across a wide flat pond covered in clear thin ice. A small group of children were sliding on it, laughing, falling, getting up again. He stopped the destrier and watched them for a long time. He had never slid on ice. He had never had a winter pond. He thought of his mother. He thought of how she had taught him the names of birds but not the names of games. He did not blame her. He only saw, for the first time, the size of what she had given up. She had given up his childhood so that his life could be longer. He understood at last. That winter, he wandered the borderlands. He stayed at a small hamlet for a week, then at a farmhouse for 2. He helped harvest a late field of barley for an old couple whose son had not come back from a campaign. He drank thin, warm beer with them at evening. He felt almost whole. But the cup of pale gold did not leave him. The slow red bead on the silver lance did not leave him. The wounded king did not leave him. His mother did not leave him. He moved on from that farmhouse the morning he realized he was beginning to enjoy it. He did not deserve to enjoy anything yet, not until he had asked. Some who hear the story think he is too hard on himself in this stretch. Maybe he is. Maybe you have been too hard on yourself in the same way. Maybe there's a small thing you didn't ask once, and you're still walking out of farmhouses where you could be staying. Maybe the old story is asking you, gently, the same question it asked him in the snow that morning. What hurts? Whose hurt have you been polite about? Whose pain has needed someone to ask after? The story will hold the question for you tonight. You do not have to answer yet. The seasons turned. Spring came. He did not know what year it was. He found himself one afternoon at the edge of a wide bracken meadow that he half recognized. The light was a certain particular slant of warm gold. He almost remembered. Almost. At the far edge of the meadow he saw a small, flat boat moored at a worn stake. His heart moved hard once in his chest. He rowed toward it without breathing. There was no rider in the boat. There was no fisherman. There was only the river going on beside the bracken. He dismounted. He stood at the bank where the king had been. He looked up the slow river. He could see no mist, no towers, no path. The land lay wide and bright and ordinary. The castle, this time, did not want to be found from outside. He understood. He sat down on the soft grass. He stayed at that riverbank for the whole evening. He waited for the fishermen. He waited for the mist. He waited for the towers. None came. The river kept going past. The reeds kept bending. The light went golden, then rose, then violet, then deep blue. He stayed the night there. He did not sleep. He kept his sword across his lap. He kept his mother's ring on his hand. He kept Blanchefleur's name in his mouth. He kept the question on his tongue. He kept it ready, just in case. He had learned that much. By morning no castle had come. The fisherman had not come. He stood up slowly. He did not curse. He did not weep. He had not earned the castle this time either. He understood that more clearly than he had understood anything yet. He turned the destrier away from the river. He had been a fool the first time because he had been too innocent. He could not be a fool the second time because he was no longer innocent. He had been ready at last with the question, and the castle had not appeared. That was the worst kind of failure, the kind that comes from being almost ready. He rode south. He rode through small dim villages where the people would not meet his eyes. He passed a withered olive grove that had been a vineyard once. He passed a dry well that had been a deep well once. He felt the land slow drying in. He felt that he had not earned the right to help it yet. 5 years would pass like this. 5 years of riding and helping and failing to find the castle. 5 years of not yet being ready. The story will not make us live through all of it second by second. It will give us, instead, one Friday morning, the morning that began the turn. This is the first climax. Stay with me. He has done much. He has lost much. He has not found the castle. He is, by Christian reckoning of the time, 5 years from the Easter of his failure. Tonight the story has reached the place where many old tellings would call him a failed knight forever. He had taken a wound that day from a road thief he should have unhorsed easily. He had not been concentrating. The thief had run when he saw the blood. He had bound the wound himself with strip of his undertunic. He sat at the small fire, and for the first time in 5 years he could not remember the cup. He tried. He could not see it. He could not see the slow red bead. He could not see the silver lance. He could not see the pale gold cup. He could not see Blanchefleur's pale hand on the wall. He could not see his mother in the doorway. The wound at his side was a small bright dot in a wide blank country. He understood what was happening. He had been emptying. The 5 years had taken much from him. Some of it had been a kind of grace, pride, certainty, naivety. Some of it had been a kind of forgetting. He was nearly hollow now. He sat very still at the fire. He was not afraid. He did not yet know that, while he sat by his small fire, an old hermit had begun walking out of a hillside cave 2 valleys over. The hermit had been told by an angel that morning to set water on for a guest. The guest would arrive by Good Friday. The first climax is this: he was at last expected. Morning came gentle. He slept for a few short hours under his cloak. He woke with the bird call he had been raised on. He almost smiled. He stood up slowly. His side hurt less than he had feared. The wound had stopped bleeding in the night. He could not have said why, but he rode east that morning. There was no road exactly. There were only soft hill paths between the trees. He let the destrier choose. The destrier walked with a small new sureness, as if it had been told. By midday he reached a small, slow stream. He stopped to let the destrier drink. He looked at his face in the water for the first time in months. He did not at first recognize the man looking back. He saw his mother's eyes. He saw his father's brow. He saw a man, not a boy. He drank a little water from his cupped hands. He stayed at the stream a long time. He thought of his mother. He thought of Blanchefleur. He thought of the king at the fire. He did not flinch from any of them now. They sat with him. The water moved. He rode on. The hill paths softened into a low slope of bracken and old yew. He smelled wood smoke, the kind that does not come from a war camp or a forge, the kind that comes from one small fire and one small kettle. He followed the smell. He came around a low fold in the hill. He saw a small low cave mouth set into a green slope, a worn wooden door beside it, an ash staff leaning against the lintel, a small wooden cross above the door, and at the threshold on a flat stone an old man waiting.
The old man looked up at the rider. He did not seem surprised. He said only, "There is water boiling, there is bread. Come down off that horse." Percival dismounted. He did not yet know what day it was. The hermit said it gently. "Today is Good Friday. You have not prayed in 5 years."
Percival sat down on the worn flat stone beside him. He set his sword across his lap. He drank a small cup of warm water with a little honey in it. He ate a small piece of dark bread. The hermit watched him eat the way a grandfather watches a grandchild, without hurry.
When the bread was gone, the hermit asked him gently, "Will you tell me your name now? Or shall I call you my son until you are ready?" Percival lifted his eyes. He felt the line of trouble at his mouth give a little. He said his name. He said his mother's name. He said the wounded king's. The hermit closed his eyes a moment. He said softly, "I am Trevrisant. The wounded king at the fire was my brother. I have been waiting for you for 5 years." Percival felt something at the center of his chest open. He did not weep. He almost did. He set the cup down very carefully.
Trevisan spoke without hurry. He told Percival who the wounded king was. Anfortas, king of the Grail castle, wounded long ago by his own pride and love, by a stroke from a poisoned spear in a tournament he should not have fought. Wounded in the thigh. Wounded in a place that did not let him stand, or sit, or rest. The wound, Trevisan said, was not the kind a healer could close. It was a sin wound. It was a wound that needed someone to come and ask after it. The Grail had told Anfortas this. The Grail had said only one man would be sent. A young knight, pure, foolish, late.
Young knight, pure, foolish, late. Trevisan said these 4 words and stopped. He did not need to say more. Percival felt the 4 words sit down inside him like stones. He looked at his hands. He saw the freckles. He saw the scars. He saw the small worn pewter ring his mother had given him. "And the question I should have asked," he said. His voice was low. He had asked it of himself 1,000 times in 5 years. He was asking it of a real person at last. Trevisan looked at him steadily. He said it gently. "Whom does the Grail serve?" Just that. Whom does the Grail serve?
Whom does it serve? Not what is it? Not where did it come from? Not what does it look like? Whom? A question about the other. A question about the relationship. A question that, if asked, would have turned a guest into kin. The hall would have known him. The king would have stood. He wept then, quietly. He had not in 5 years. He bent forward over his knees. The old hermit set one steady hand between his shoulder blades. He did not say anything reassuring. He did not say it was not his fault. He only sat with him. That was the medicine.
When the weeping was done, Trevisan said softly, "Now stay. Eat the rest of the bread. Sleep here tonight. Tomorrow at first light I will tell you the rest. The new wound, the one your road carries now, also needs to be named. You will not like the name, but you have asked."
Percival ate the rest of the bread. He stretched out beside a small low fire at the cave mouth. He slept. He slept deeper than he had in 5 years. He dreamed of nothing. The destrier slept standing nearby. The old hermit kept the fire burning gently through the cold spring night. At first light, Trevisan woke him very gently. They ate the last of the bread. They walked into the cave. Inside there was a low stone altar, a simple wooden cross, a single thin beeswax candle. The old man knelt. He gestured Percival to kneel beside him. The boy did. The man followed. Trevisan said the prayers of the day. Percival did not know them well. He listened. He repeated what he could. He did not need to be good at this. He needed only to be present. He felt his mother in the cabin doorway behind him. He felt Blanchefleur on the wall behind him. He felt the wounded king behind him too.
After the prayers, Trevisan said the harder thing. "When you left your mother, you did not look back. She died of it that day, not of grief alone, of grief and of the long not knowing whether you were safe. You did not see her again. The Grail castle was offered to a boy who carried that wound. And when you arrived at the castle, you did not speak. You took Gournement's rule as if it were the only commandment. You forgot the first commandment, which was to greet women gently and to greet wounded men no less gently. You greeted the king's silence by being silent yourself. That is the new wound. It is the wound of taking advice instead of seeing. Now hear the cure." The old hermit set one steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "You will go back. The castle will open again to you. It does not open to seekers. It opens to those who have been broken open. You are now broken open enough. Go, eat first, then go."
Percival stayed 2 more days at the cave. He helped Trevisan chop a small pile of wood. He helped him carry water from a small spring nearby. He listened to the old man speak slowly of the Grail family, of the wounded king's family, of the road ahead. He filed every word carefully. Nothing was lost this time. On the 3rd morning he saddled the destrier. He set his sword at his hip. He bound the small piece of dark bread the hermit had given him to his saddle. He came back to the threshold to say farewell. Trevisan was already waiting, standing now, the ash staff under one hand.
They did not embrace. They were not those kinds of men. The old hermit set one hand on the boy's chest, right above the heart, right where his mother had pressed her hand before he left her. He said only, "Carry her with you, carry her in." Percival nodded. He could not speak.
He mounted. He turned the destrier. He rode out of the small valley by a different path from the one he had ridden in. He did not look back. This time, because looking back would have unmade what he was about to do. The cave folded into the green slope behind him. Maybe there is someone in your life like that hermit. Someone who knew something you needed and was patient enough to wait 5 of your years for you to sit down on their threshold. Maybe you can hold them in your mind for a moment tonight. The story will hold its breath. He rode east through the rest of the day. The country he passed through felt newly real. The colors had come back. The dry brown wheat he had passed years ago had turned green at last. The dry wells he had seen had a faint sound of water deep in them. The land was beginning to mend. He felt the small turning under the dirt. By evening he was riding along a slow gray-green river. Tall reeds bending at the water's edge. A small, flat-bottomed wooden boat moored at a worn stake. A man seated in the boat with a fishing rod across his lap. The fisherman lifted his face. He recognized him. He had been waiting 5 years too. They did not speak this time. The king lifted one hand. The boy lifted one hand. The king pointed up the river. The boy nodded. Then the king went back to his fishing, as if even he was not allowed to make the meeting easy. Percival rode on. Riverbank, reeds, slow turning of the water. He did not hurry. He did not slow. He let the destrier walk. The mist came up exactly as before. He rode into it without flinching. He did not look back. He let the castle find him. That was the right way this time. The mist thinned. The pale stone towers of the Grail castle rose against a deep blue evening pricked with the first stars. The gate stood open. He rode through. The same boys in white came forward. They took the destrier. They took his sword belt. They did not take his cloak. There was no cloak to take. They led him through the low door into the long hall. Hundreds of slender white candles. The low cedarwood fire in the central hearth. The carved chair near the hearth. The wounded king in it, with his bandaged thigh beneath the indigo robe. Nothing had changed, and everything was different. Because he had... Percival did not sit this time. He walked the length of the hall. He stopped before the king's chair. He did not bow. He knelt. He set his hand against the king's hand on the chair arm. He looked up at his face. He did not wait for the procession. He did not wait for the right moment.
He said it gently. He said it the way Trevisan had told him to say it. He said, "Uncle, what ails you, tell me? Whom does the Grail serve?" Just that. He did not let go of the king's hand. He waited. The hall did not gasp. The candles did not flare. The procession did not appear. It was quieter than that. The wounded king closed his eyes. A single tear ran sideways across his cheek into his beard. He set his other hand on top of Percival's. He drew a long, slow breath. He said only, "It serves you. It always served you."
He meant something old. He meant the cup did not need you to fight for it. It did not need you to find it. It needed you to be present at the wounded place. He had been, he was, he had asked. The kingdom turned over very gently on its axis. Nothing visible moved. Everything moved. Then the king did something he had not done in many years. He set his hands on the chair arms. He pushed. He stood. He stood up slowly, but he stood. The bandage at his thigh felt suddenly like ordinary cloth. He looked down at the kneeling boy. He smiled fully for the first time in their meeting. The doors at the far end of the hall opened slowly. The procession came in. The pale boy with the silver lance, the red bead at its tip now gone, the lance only a silver lance again, the 2 boys with the candelabras, and the woman in white silk and pale gold hair, walking with the cup at chest height. The Grail maiden walked the same path she had walked before. She passed between the king's chair and the hearth. She did not look at the king. She did not need to. She looked at Percival once, just once. Her hazel eyes flecked with gold rested on his. He bowed his head. She walked on. That was the moment of healing. Not loud, not fireworked. Just a king standing, a cup carried calmly through, a question finally asked. The old stories knew that the deepest healing in a person's life is almost always this quiet. You may have lived one already, you may not have noticed at the time. Percival ate that night at the king's table again. The king sat across from him this time upright, the indigo robe loose and easy. They did not speak much. They did not need to. They drank slow dark wine. They broke a small loaf together. They left the door of the hall a little open. Anyone could have come in. When the meal was done, the king set his hand briefly on Percival's shoulder. He told him to sleep here as long as he liked. He told him the small high room would always be his now. He told him the road would also be his when he was ready. He said nothing more. That night he slept again in the small high room. The candle on the stone shelf burned down gently. He dreamed of his mother in the cabin doorway. She did not say go on this time, she only smiled. He woke with the smile on her face still in his chest. He kept it there. He carried it to breakfast. He stayed at the castle for a week. He walked its halls. He learned its rooms. He helped the small pale boys in white when they would let him. He spoke quietly with the Grail maiden once at evening on a high wall. She told him gently that she was his cousin too. He had a small family at last. She told him also that there was someone waiting for him on a wall many days' ride south. He could feel his chest lift at that. He had not let himself think much about Blanchefleur during the 5 years. He had not been worthy of the thinking. He could think of her now. At the end of his week, he saddled the destrier in the inner courtyard. He buckled his sword. He took his cloak, the new one, the small boys in white had given him, a soft dark blue with silver thread. He bowed once to the king at the gate. The king kissed his brow. He rode out. He rode south. The country he passed through was greener every day. The fields were plowed. The streams ran clear. The villages had bread in their windows. The famine was undone. No one praised him as he passed. No one had to. The land's mending was its own quiet thanks. He came to Beaurepaire on the 5th evening. The walls had been repaired. The faded banners were gone. New banners of clean blue and silver lifted in the soft warm wind. He rode up the slope. The gate was open. There was no thin gatekeeper. The man at the gate was strong now. He bowed deeply. He rode through the courtyard. The inner court was full of small noises now. A smith's hammer, a child's laugh, a kitchen clatter, a dog barking somewhere up a stairwell. The smells were the right kind. Bread, stew, a small spice from the south. He almost cried. He had not known a courtyard could sound like this. And then he saw her on the high stone steps. She had not changed in any large way. Her braid was the same. Her gown was now a deeper sea blue. Her face was a little fuller from 5 years of bread again. She set both hands on the rope rail. She came down very slowly. He could not move.
She came down. She stopped 2 steps above him. They were exactly eye to eye. She set one slim hand on his red beard. She felt the new texture. She set the other on his shoulder where the new soft blue cloak was. She said quietly, almost to herself, "There you are."
He stayed at Beaurepaire that night, and the next and the next. He stayed many nights. He did not pretend he had not been gone for 5 years. He did not pretend he had not failed. He told her everything by the light of one small hearth fire. She listened the way Trevisan had listened, without hurry. She did not need him to fix anything for her this time. The castle was already healed. She needed him only to stay. He understood it. He did not run. He had run from one doorway once already. He would not do it again. He laid his soft blue cloak across the back of a chair by the hearth. They were married in the small castle chapel at midsummer. There were no banners. There were no trumpets. There were no kings present. There was the old castle priest. There was the smith. There was the cook. There was Blanchefleur's small white dog asleep at the back. There was the kitchen girl Percival had once seen slapped at Camelot. Trevisan had sent for her. That kitchen girl became something else in the slower years. The story does not always tell her name. Some tellings make her a queen later. Some make her a teacher. All of them make her, finally heard. She lived at Beaurepaire from that summer on. Percival had remembered her. The old story remembers what its hero remembers. That autumn Percival rode out one last time. He went to find his mother's grave. He had been told by Trevisan that the hermit knew where she had been buried. A small clearing, a small flat stone, a wild rose grown over it. He went alone. He took only the small piece of dark bread Trevisan had given him months ago. He found the clearing on the 3rd day. It was very small. The cabin was gone. There were only stones from the chimney. The garden of beans and chamomile was gone. A wild rose climbed up over a single small flat stone at the edge of where the cabin had stood. He stopped the destrier. He stood very still.
He knelt at the stone. He set the small piece of dark bread on it. He set his pewter ring beside it. He set his open hand flat on the stone for a long time. He said softly, "I'm sorry I came back. I'm sorry I did not come back sooner. You were right about everything you said." He did not weep this time. He had finished weeping months ago.
He left the bread. He left the ring. He had carried them as far as he could. He stood. He bowed once to the empty clearing. He turned. He mounted. He rode out. The wild pink rose moved very gently in a small cool wind behind him. He felt her smile from the dream, somewhere inside his chest, take its full shape. Maybe you have a grave like that of your own, or a place that should have one and does not. The old story does not make us hurry through these places. It lets us kneel as long as we need to. It lets us set down what we have carried. It walks us back to our own life when we are ready. He rode the rest of the autumn home. He met no road thieves. He met no proud knights. The land had grown into peace around him. By the first of winter he was back at Beaurepaire. Blanchefleur was waiting for him on the high wall. She lifted one slim hand. He lifted one back. They came down to meet each other this time. That winter at Beaurepaire, Fauve learned to do small, soft things. He learned to braid. He learned to mend. He learned the patience of bread rising. He learned the slow, long names of the small village children who came in for instruction. He had been a knight. He was now also a husband. He was now also a father in waiting. A son came that spring. They named him for the Grail king's brother, Lohengrin. The story has 1,000 smaller tellings of what he becomes. Some of them are beautiful, some are sad. Tonight we leave him just at the cradle, a small new life, a small new fire, a small new beginning. Maybe you are at a small new beginning too. Maybe a small new fire of your own is lit in the corner of your evening right now. The old story is glad. It has always been glad about small new fires. It started with one. It ends with one. It has every right to be glad about yours. There would still be later quests. There would still be roads. Percival's name appears in many later stories. He becomes a Grail knight in Wolfram's telling. He helps Galahad in another. He becomes in some a king of the Grail castle when Anfortas can finally rest. The story does not end with the asking. The asking is the door. He goes back to the Grail castle many times in the later years. He sits with Anfortas at the cedar fire. He listens to the old king tell stories of his own youth. He learns the names of the small pale boys in white. He helps train new young knights who arrive looking for the cup. He sends most of them home. He tells the young knights who come, quietly, never to shame them, that the Grail is not a thing you fight for. It is a thing you are present at, that the test is not a sword, it is a sentence, that the sentence is short. Whom does this serve? Speak it kindly. Speak it on time. Let me pause one more time. The 5 years of silence Percival rode through, they are not a punishment. The old story does not work that way. They are silence as teacher. The Welsh poets called it Lonidjich. The Christians later called it the dark night of the soul. Both meant the same thing. When a person is being remade, the surface goes quiet for a long time. The deeds stop working. The applause stops mattering. The kindnesses still get given, but they are given out of duty now, not joy. That is silence as teacher. That is the long room where the question is being prepared in you. The old stories are kind about it. They never rush the silence. They say, sit. They say, keep doing the next small thing. They say the question is coming. They say you will know when. You will not have to look for the castle. The castle will look for you again, and so you keep going. If you are in a silence like that tonight, and many people listening to this story tonight are, the old story sends a small, gentle message. It is not punishment, it is preparation. The question is being shaped in you. You do not have to find it. It is finding the right hour. When the hour comes, the question will be short. It almost always is. Whom does this serve? What hurts? May I see it? May I sit? Are you all right? Tell me. The cure is small. The cure has always been small. Now back to Beaurepaire, where the new fire is burning gently in the cradle's corner. Percival came in very quietly. He did not want to wake either of them. He set his sword belt down on the chair by the door. He took off his boots in the corridor. He came across the soft floor in his stockinged feet. He set his hand very gently on Blanchefleur's shoulder. She did not wake. She turned her head slightly toward the touch. He sat on the floor beside her chair. He set his back against the side of the cradle. He looked up at the ceiling. The wood beams of the room were old. He thought of his mother's wood beams. He thought of his mother's small hand on his chest at the cabin door. He set his own hand on his own chest. He kept it there. That was the moment many of the old storytellers chose to stop. Not at a great deed, not at a great battle, not even at the asking. At a man sitting on the floor in a quiet, warm room with his back against his sleeping son's cradle, his hand on his own chest, his mother in his memory, his wife dozing beside him. Story enough. But the old story does not end yet. There is one more thing the old story wants to show. Percival rides out one last time, not to fight, not to seek, not to be tested. He rides out to find an old promise. He rides out to find someone he has not yet apologized to. He went to find the lady whose pavilion he had ridden into as a boy, whose ring he had taken in his mother's confused old language of gentleness. He had not seen her again. He had heard through the road that her own knight had punished her years ago, and that they had since reconciled, and that she sometimes asked about the red-haired boy who had once stolen her ring. It was Good Friday again. 5 years and 1 day after his first one with Treversant. He had not chosen the date deliberately. The road had chosen it. He rode up. He dismounted. He stood at a respectful distance. He waited for her to look up. She did. She did not at first recognize him. Then she did.
He knelt in front of her. He did not say it with flourish. He took the small, worn, folded leather pouch from his belt. He opened it. The small silver ring he had taken from her so many years ago lay on his palm. He held it out to her. He said, "I was a child who did not yet know what kindness sounded like. I am sorry."
She did not at once take it back. She let it sit on his palm a moment. She looked at him for a long time. She was an older woman now. She had her own slow understanding of how boys become men. She took the ring at last. She set it carefully, not on her finger, but on her own small folded leather pouch on the table.
She did not say, "I forgive you." She did not say it was nothing. She did not say you shouldn't have come. She said only, "Thank you for coming back. I have wondered." That was enough. That was more than enough. He bowed his head. He stood. He took the destrier's bridle. He turned to go. She said one more thing, almost as he turned. She said, "There was a boy I lost. He would have been your age. I wondered if you might have been him in some old story. You weren't, but you might be in this one." She set her hand very gently on the table. He took that with him.
He rode the rest of that day slowly. He felt many small things at once. He felt the old confusion of 15-year-old hands closing on something they did not understand. He felt the small, steady warmth of forgiveness given without being demanded. He felt grateful for both. He let the destrier walk. He went home to Beaurepaire that night. He did not tell Blanchefleur about the apology. He told her only that the road had been kind. She nodded. She did not press. She knew the kind of errand he had done. She had done errands of her own across that same long autumn. They did not always speak the small things. They knew them in each other anyway. That winter Percival's name appeared in songs as far as Tintagel. The songs said many wrong things and a few right ones. He did not mind. He did not need to be correct in the songs. He only needed to be correct in his own evenings. The evenings were correct. He grew older. Blanchefleur grew older. Their son Lohengrin grew up. There were 2 more children after him in some tellings, none in others. There were smaller stories within their large one. There were quiet hours of bread and beekeeping and rain. There were small, slow trips back to the Grail castle, then home again. In the very late years he became in some tellings the king of the Grail castle himself, and Fortis finally rested. Percival took the indigo robe. He sat by the cedar fire in the great hall. He listened to young knights stumble through their stories of failed quests. He served them small cups of dark wine. He sent most of them home.
He did not ask the young knights to prove themselves. He did not ask them to fight. He did not ask them to find. He asked them only, "Whom does the Grail serve?" He gave them an hour to answer. If they answered well, he kept them. If they answered badly, he sent them out gently, with a small loaf of dark bread for the road.
The ones he kept stayed for years. The ones he sent home, he said, would come back if the right hour reached them. Some did. Some did not. He did not blame either group. He knew his own 5 years. He had been the boy who needed to go home and come back. He kept the cedar fire steady. We are nearing the end of the story now. The old storytellers always leave a few of the final stretches loose. They believe a story should not be tightened shut at the close. They believe a story should be left like a door slightly open, so that you can walk into it later, so that it can walk into your evening tonight. Let me bring you back gently to the small things, your pillow, your warmth, the soft sound of your own breath. The old story is keeping you company. It is glad you are here. It does not need you to remember every name. The names are a courtesy. The shape is the medicine. The shape is this. You begin not knowing anything. You walk out of the forest. You take a small piece of advice too literally. You make a quiet mistake that becomes a large one. You spend years that look like failure but are actually preparation. You arrive again. You ask the question. The wound closes. The land fills. You go home. Maybe the part you're in tonight is the one in the middle. The years that look like nothing. The ones where the deeds are not landing and the question has not arrived. The story sits with you in those years. It is the part of the story it understands best. It has been there too. One winter evening when Percival was very old, a young woman came to the gate of the Grail castle. She was small. She was tired. She did not look like a knight. She was carrying a small bundle. She said she had walked 5 days. She asked at the gate if she could come in. The small pale boys let her in.
The boys brought her into the great hall. Percival was seated by the cedar fire. He did not stand up. He was very old by then. He did not need to. He looked at her gently. He said, "Sit, you have walked far. Tell me your road." She sat. She told him about her village, her husband, her child, her hunger, her hope.
When she was done speaking, he did not give her advice. He did not give her instruction. He did not even ask her a question. He simply lifted himself slowly from his chair. He set a small loaf of bread on the table. He poured a small cup of wine. He set them in front of her. He sat down again. He waited until she ate. That was his final teaching, not the asking, the presence. The asking was the door. The presence was the room. He had spent his whole life learning to be the room. He had been a small forest. He had been a forest road. He had been a question. He was now, at the end, a warm, patient room. He sat down by the fire again. The young woman ate. She stayed at the castle for a season. She got strong again. She left in the spring with her small child wrapped warm in 2 new soft white wraps. She did not become a knight. She did not need to. She had been seen. The story remembers her. The Grail castle was open longer because of her. That counts. Percival lived a long time after that. The stories disagree by how long. Some say 20 years. Some say only 5. Some say he lived until he saw his grandson stand up at the gate of the Grail castle and pour wine for a tired old man. All of the tellings agree that he died quietly. None of them say he died in battle. The story refused that ending for him. They buried him in the small chapel of the Grail castle. They did not put a great stone over him. They put a small flat stone. They carved no name. They put on it only 4 words, the same 4 Trevisan had said over him 50 years before: young knight, pure, foolish, late. He had wanted those words. He wanted them because he had earned them. Late was as much a part of his life as pure had been. Foolish was as much a part as knight. He had been all 4. He had become, at last, what the old story said he was always going to become. He had become whole. We will pause here. We will sit at the small flat stone for a few breaths. We will not need to say anything. We will let the slow, long story breathe its last warm breath through the room. We will keep the candle steady. We will let the old hero rest. He has earned it. He has been many decades long. The land outside the Grail castle stayed green that year. The fields filled out with wheat. The wells ran clear. The little villages had small new children in them. The wounded king's wound had closed many decades ago. The story does not end its land at its hero's death. The land outlives the heroes that mend it. That is the kindest mathematics in the world. Maybe somewhere tonight a wound of your own is closing very slowly. Maybe somewhere tonight you have asked recently a small kind question of someone you love. Maybe somewhere tonight you have not yet, and the question is being shaped in you. All 3 are part of the same old story. None of them are wrong. The story now drifts a little further into the soft, warm quiet. We will move toward the close. We will let the old hero stay buried. We will let Blanchefleur stay sleeping in her warm room. We will let the cedar fire keep burning. We will let your pillow keep being kind. We will breathe slower together for a few more minutes. We will not rush the dark. We will not push you off into sleep. We will sit with you on this small, soft threshold for as long as you would like. The old story is in no hurry to leave. It does this with you every week. It has done it with people for 1,000 years. It is the kindest old thing the world still keeps. Stay with us a moment longer. The old story has one more inner room it wants to open for you. A small, quiet room with no narrative in it, just an image, a symbol, a breath. The next stretch of the story is the slow walking through the meaning of what happened. You do not need to follow it. You can sleep here if you would like. Let me pause one last time, slowly. The question Percival did not ask the first time was not a test of memory. It was not a test of cleverness. It was a test of presence. Of whether he could put down the rule his teacher had given him and pick up the person in front of him instead. That is the old test. It is still the test. Many of us were given Gournemant's rule. Do not ask too many questions. Do not pry. Do not interrupt. Do not embarrass. Be polite. Be polite. Be polite. We were taught it kindly. We took it in solemnly. We held it tight. We were not told what the rule could cost when we held it the wrong night. The old story would like to release you, gently, from the wrong night version of that rule. It would like to say, when you're next at a small candlelit table with someone who is hurting, set the rule down. Ask the small kind question. The cup will not be angry with you, the hall will not collapse. The kingdom will close one of its old wounds. Maybe there is someone in your life right now whom you have been too polite about. Maybe their wound has been waiting for a small kind question of yours for a long time. The old story has set the cup down, it has set the bread down, it has lit the candle. The room is ready when you are. The cure has always been small. Whom does this serve? What hurts? May I see it? May I sit? Are you all right? Tell me. The old story will not finish that sentence for you. It will only hold the candle and the bread and the cup and your room. It will only let you know when you are ready. It is the easy part. Now back to the very last stretch. The Grail castle stayed in the country for another generation. Then it began to come less often. Then it began to come only at certain seasons. Then it began to come only once in a lifetime. Then it began to come only to those who were broken open enough to find it. The story did not say it had ended. It only said it had moved. It still moves, the old story says. It still arrives at small candlelit tables, at small hospital rooms, at small kitchens at 3 in the morning, at small bedrooms where one person is awake with a sleeping child. At small rooms like yours tonight, it does not always announce itself. It always shows up. The old story is showing up in your room right now too. You have been listening to it for almost an hour. It has been listening to you for almost an hour back. It has heard your breath get a little slower. It has heard the way you have settled into the pillow. It is glad to be here. It is in no hurry to leave. It is going to walk us into the final climax of the old story now. The final climax of Percival is not a battle. It is not a duel. It is not even the asking again. The final climax of the old story is the small, steady warmth of a room where the wound is closed and the cup has been put down. That is the climax. That is the heart of it. The first climax was the moment the wound closed. The final climax is the long, warm room that comes after. The first climax was sharp. The final climax is wide. The first climax was about Percival. The final climax is about everyone. The Grail castle stays open forever after. It is about you. Maybe somewhere in your life a wound has already closed and you have not yet noticed. Maybe somewhere a small, wide, warm room has already opened in you and you have not stepped into it yet. The old story would gently like to show you the doorway. You will not have to walk through it tonight. The doorway will keep being there. We will close the night soon. The old story has done its work for tonight. The hero has been buried. The land has been mended. The cup has been carried. The room has been opened. Your breath has slowed. Your pillow is kind. The candle is steady. There is no more climbing tonight. Only the slow, soft return.
We will move into the meaning of the story for a few more minutes, then the closing for a few more, then the good night. You are doing well. You do not have to stay alert. You do not have to take notes. You do not have to remember any of it. The story will remember itself. The story always remembers itself for you.
One small, soft breath, then another. The old story is just behind you on the pillow. It is keeping the candle steady for you. It is holding the bread and the wine on the small, low table in case you are hungry later. It is holding the cup softly in case you need it later. It is here. You are here.
Let us now begin the soft turn toward the meaning, toward the legacy, toward the good night. The old hero has rested. The old story is settling. The candle is steady. The room is kind. Your breath is slowing. The old story is glad you came tonight. It is glad you stayed. It will see you off gently when the time is ready.
The final climax of the old story is one small still room with one steady candle and one closed wound and one small kind question already asked. You are sitting in a room like that right now. You are doing the climax simply by being still. You are doing the climax simply by breathing slow. The final image of the old story, told in the old voice. Picture the Grail castle at deep night. The mist is back around its walls. The towers are pale stone against deep blue. One small high window is glowing soft amber. Someone inside has remembered to keep the cedar fire burning. That is all the climax the old story needs. It is the same final image the Welsh poets ended on. The same final image the French monks ended on. The same final image Wolfram ended on. The same final image Wagner ended on. 800 years later. They were all telling the same warm room. They were all telling you. A small, still warm room held kindly through the dark. That is the final climax of the Percival story. That is the final climax of yours too. You can keep your small warm room held kindly through the dark. You have already done it many times. You are doing it tonight. You will do it again tomorrow. One more small soft breath. The old story is finishing its long ride. The hero is buried. The land is mended. The cup has been put down. The window has stayed lit. The night has stayed kind. You have stayed here. The old story is grateful for that. It has been grateful for many such nights.
The final climax is done. The old story will rest now. We will walk slowly through what it has meant. We will walk slowly through what it has left behind. We will walk slowly through your good night. You do not have to stay awake. You do not have to follow. You can let go now if you would like.
The old story has rested. Now the meaning of it. Quietly. The cure was a small kind question. The wound was old. The land was waiting. The hero was almost ready. None of these are special to him alone. They are all of us in some season. The question that heals is older than the cup. It belongs to no church alone. It belongs to no country alone. It belongs to every small candlelit table where two people sit with bread between them and one of them is hurt. That is the symbol. The wound that will not close by force is also old. It cannot be sewn shut. It cannot be commanded shut. It can only be asked about gently. That is mercy. That is the second symbol. The story has held it for centuries. Innocence is not purity. The story makes this clear quietly. Innocence is what Percival had when he walked out of the forest. Purity is what he had when he walked back in at the end. Innocence is what you start with. Purity is what survives knowing. The 5 years of silence are the third symbol. They are silence as teacher. They are the long preparation. They feel like failure from inside. They are not failure. They are the slow shaping of the cure. The story has used these years for 1,000 audiences. The mother in the doorway is the fourth symbol. She is not only a mother, she is the small warm room of safety we all leave at some hour. She is also the small warm room we all carry inside us afterwards. We do not stop leaving, we do not stop carrying. Both are true. The teacher with the almost right rule is the fifth symbol. He is not only Gourmand. He is every kind voice we have carried that fit one room and not another. We are not asked to throw the voice away. We are only asked to know which room it was for. The wounded king is the sixth symbol. He is the part of us that has been hurt for a very long time and has not yet been asked about. He is also the part of someone we love that we have not yet asked about. Both are the same room. The story does not let us pretend they are different rooms. The cup is the seventh symbol. It is not what you find. It is what you become present at. It is small. It is held by someone else. It moves through the room. It does not need to be lifted. It only needs to be acknowledged. That is the cup. The hermit at the cave is the eighth symbol. He is the person who knew all along what the cure was. He did not chase you with it. He kept water on the fire. He let you find him. There is one of these in your life too. Maybe more than one. They are waiting kindly. Blanche Fleur on the wall is the ninth symbol. She is the person we love who waits without demanding. She is the home we choose to come back to when we are ready. She is also the inner room we open in ourselves so that someone else can find us. Both are her. The road is the 10th symbol. It does not punish. It does not reward. It only holds what you bring to it and gives back what you become. The road is the slow, long evening of your life. The road is the small, kind hours between the candles. The road is good. The road is enough. The small new child in the cradle at Beaurepaire is the 11th symbol. He is what comes after the asking. He is the small new fire of any small new beginning. He is the soft proof that the wound once closed does not stay closed alone. It keeps living. It keeps giving back. The small kitchen girl Percival remembered is the 12th symbol. She is the small unseen person in any large hall whose laughter or tears were once punished. She is the one the hero is asked, quietly, to remember. The story makes clear, being remembered is also being healed. Behind all 12 symbols is one quiet shape. The shape is, be present at the wounded place. Do not perform, do not flee, do not lecture, do not fix. Just sit, just ask the small kind question. Just wait, the kingdom will hear you, the wound will know. This is why the story has not aged. It is not about a sword. It is not about a horse. It is not even, in the deepest part, about a cup. It is about the slow kindness it takes to be a person who is in the room with another person who is hurting. That is forever work. The Christian reading of the story is gentle. The Celtic reading is gentle. The medieval German reading is gentle. The modern psychological reading is gentle. All four agree. All four say the cure is small. The cure is presence. The cure is the small kind question. That is why a forest boy from a Welsh wood is still being told 1,000 years later in a city you live in. He carried the small kindness through the long evening of human time. He still carries it. He has handed it to you tonight. It is small. It is yours. You can set it down tonight if you would like. You do not have to ask anyone anything tonight. You only have to sleep. The small kindness will keep being there in the morning. The small kindness has always kept. That is the way of the small kindness. The meaning of the story is small enough to fit in a single sentence. Be present at the wounded place. The story keeps that sentence warm for you. The story does not need you to memorize it. The story trusts you to know it when the small kind hour arrives. A little about how the story has traveled. The first version of him was Welsh. Peredur, son of a frog. A boy raised in a hidden valley. A boy who saw a bleeding lance and a head on a platter. A boy who failed to ask. The old country remembers. Then came Chrétien de Troyes in the late 12th century, a French court poet. He gave the boy a softer name. He gave the platter a holy cup. He gave the cup a quiet symbol in the shape of grace. He died before he finished the poem. Other poets finished it for him. Then came Wolfram von Eschenbach in the early 13th century, a German knight poet. He gave the boy a soul. He gave the cup a deeper meaning. He turned the failure into the heart of the story. He called him Percival. He let him be human. The German telling is the one we have followed most tonight. Then came many smaller hands. Sir Thomas Malory in the 15th century, in English. He gave Percival a son and a long, quiet ending. He set him beside Galahad. He let him be one of the 3 knights who finally saw the cup whole. Then the story slept for a few centuries. Then in the late 19th century, Richard Wagner brought him back in opera. Parsifal, slow holy music, a long meditation on mercy. It is still performed in old houses. It is still the music many of us hear in our heads when we think of the cup. Then in the 20th century, T.S. Eliot wrote a long poem called The Waste Land, the wounded king at the riverbank, the dry country, the cup somewhere not yet found. He did not say Percival's name often, but the bones of the story were there. The story kept teaching the long century how to ask. Then the films came. Then the children's books came. Then the bedtime versions came. Then the modern Grail myths came, the secret cup, the secret lineage, the lost wisdom. Some of them got the old story right. Some of them got it wrong. The story did not mind. It does not lose itself in being told slightly wrong. It only deepens. And now you on your soft pillow, in your warm room, hearing the old story again under a new voice. You are the next telling. You are the latest in the long line of small candlelit listeners. The story has reached you. That is its legacy. That is its only legacy. Why does this story keep returning? Because the wound it names has not gone away. Because the rooms it imagines are still rooms we walk into. Because the question it teaches is still small and still hard. Because the candle is still kind. Because you're still here.
The story has reached you. The legacy is closed. The story will now walk you gently to sleep. The candle is steady. The bed is soft. The blanket is folded. Your breath is slow. Your room is kind. The old story is here. The good night is next.
The old story is closing now. The wood is dark. The candle is steady. The night is kind. You have done well to stay. Soft breath in, soft breath out. The forest holds you. The candle holds the room. Let go a little more. There is nothing left for you to do tonight. Next time, somewhere colder, older, a different kind of fire. But that is not tonight. Tonight, just this. The candle is steady, the room is warm. The old story is at the door, leaving softly. We'll be here when you're ready. Another small old story, another small kind night. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw soften. Let your hands open. The bed is kind, the night is long enough. Percival is buried, Blanchefleur is sleeping, the cedar fire is steady, the cup is at rest. The old wood is quiet. The small kind question will keep. The cup will keep. The candle will keep. You can let them all keep just for tonight. The old story bows once. The candle bows once. The room bows once. You are safe.
Good night, sweet listener. Good night, pure night, the wood will hold you. Sleep.